Welcome back to episode 3 of
What's Up, Girl?
And I'm here with Joan Melendez-Misner, a spacecraft integration engineer, literal rocket scientist, and planetary defender.
Yes, all of the above.
I figured we could start with just like your general education and kind of your background, and yeah, let me just let you jump right into it then.
Yeah, absolutely. So my background is in chemical engineering and chemistry. I grew up in Puerto Rico and in Orlando, Florida, and I absolutely loved rockets. I knew that eventually I wanted to work in rockets, but I also had a passion for planes as well. And so I started my career in the Department of Defense, working specifically for the Navy. But with my chemical engineering and chemistry background, I started off in the lab. So I did a lot of biofuel qualification for the Navy. And then after a while, I was like, I think I really want to go back to my first passion of rockets. And so I got a job at Blue Origin working on the New Glenn rocket, which just recently launched. And from there, it's history. I've been working on rockets ever since for the last 6 years now.
Okay, so you mentioned New Glenn, and I know that was a huge mission for you. So what was it like? Because you live where the rockets launch.
Yes.
You work where the rockets launch. So what was it like actually watching this mission that you worked from pretty much start to almost finish?
Yeah.
Actually get to fly?
I mean, there's no words for it. Like you said, from start to finish. And so one really cool fact that not many people know is, so I worked on the launch site when it was not a launch site. Like it was just gravel and it was sand. Yeah. I worked on the launch pad. I worked on the engines. I worked on the ship, being able to get to the points to where it launched successfully. And it was not only like a very successful mission, like it made it to orbit and it had a blue ring as the payload, and it was able to deploy that as well on its first flight, which is insane.
This is actually, it's like one of the first rockets to actually do that on its first flight.
Correct,
right?
Yeah. So it was, for me, it was exciting to see something go to space that you worked on, but also to see it successfully, complete its mission. And so it's just really exciting to be able to be a part of history. And, I was in the building when they tried to attempt the first launch, and then Bill Nye comes in and you're like, hey, Bill Nye, thanks for coming to my rocket launch. Again, it was super exciting to work on something that you worked on for so long and then finally get it to see to where it's supposed to go. I can't describe. It was just so exciting.
Yeah, so okay, I want to come back to the rocket science stuff, but you mentioned Bill Nye, and I know that you've met Bill Nye before.
Yes.
And a lot of that's part of a lot of the SciComm endeavors that you do and your Instagram and all of that stuff. So how did you take being a literal rocket scientist and then turning it into something where you've built this huge now community of other women and space lovers all online, and even now taking it offline? I know you've been to like the White House and all these really cool places.
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
I'm a huge introvert. It was first a little scary, right? So when I first started this, it was when COVID hit. And so, I'd be online, the rise of TikTok, Instagram was already there. I started thinking about what can I do to maybe put a face to STEM or, women in science or engineering. And I absolutely love it. It's something, a creative outlet that I never thought that I had, and that I never thought that I had the, ability to do. If you do it for yourself, it comes out that way, right? The authenticity is something that keeps me going. And so that's why I love the community that we built, because it's everyone encourages everybody is there as your biggest supporter. That's something that I did not have when I was going through college, and at times I almost quit my degree because I just either failed a class or I never thought that I was good enough. I was the only woman in the classroom, and so being able to now see other women have those same stories encourages me to tell mine as well, so that the next generation can understand that we're trying to raise those numbers, and in order to do that, we have to share our stories, whether good or bad.
Do you have a favorite place or project that you've worked on while doing the SciComm stuff? I know what my favorite of yours is.
Oh my gosh.
I'm wondering what your favorite of yours is.
Okay, there's been so many projects, which again, it's so crazy to think that, me starting out in my room, just telling my story of like, I failed organic chemistry, turned into like, you're now invited to the White House. So it's just like, to me, it's like, it does not equal each other. But last year, I'm from Puerto Rico, as I mentioned. There is a science park that I would go to when I was growing up. And that's what really got me interested in science. It got torn down because of just funding and everything. Last year, they reopened it and they asked me to be part of their aerospace section. And so now when kids go into this museum, they see my face and my interview and my questions in the museum as someone who used to go to the museum and see other people there as well. So for me, that's been my most
Yeah.
rewarding and my most favorite part of just this whole thing is just being able to, you know, kind of full circle, right? So being able to now share my experience with future generations of scientists and engineers.
So that's like really inspiring. And of course, naturally, like my favorite project of yours is absolutely not that. I mean, that was awesome. But my favorite is the Up House.
Oh, yes. Oh my gosh. Okay. First of all, Up was one of my favorite movies. And so growing up, I love Pixar. So all these movies that just shaped who I am and like made me cry at every single one of them. And then being able to now work to do the engineering and the science behind, you know, building a Lego house and like getting this, it was huge. It was 100 pounds.
Oh my God.
100 pounds. You know, I did the science behind it and I gave it to them. And then they're like, yeah, well then now come out and you're now going to be part of the episode. Me as a kid, I'm like, how did I get here? Because this is incredible. And science got me here, right? So, you know, it's just really cool to think about how science is involved with everything that we do, from watching a movie when I was a kid to now doing the science behind creating the real life Up. That was one of my favorite top 3 projects for sure.
One of my favorite missions of yours is DART. I love asteroids because it means that the work that I did in my 6 months like interning at NASA has potential for like future use. So like OSIRIS-REx was another big one for me. But DART was really cool, and I want to let you tell everyone why.
Yeah, I mean, so that was my first mission. Like I joined NASA and they were like, you're gonna work on something called the Double Asteroid Redirection Test. I'm like, okay, DART. I'm like, oh, that sounds cool. I love asteroids, we're awesome. Once I realized what the actual mission was, I was like, this is the coolest mission on the planet.
It's so cool.
So, I mean, okay, so DART is, we launched a rocket with a spacecraft from Earth and we wanted to direct it towards an asteroid that was millions of miles away. And so the intent is we wanted to specifically collide with the asteroid to see if we can redirect its current orbit or its current path. We were able to watch it live because there was a camera that was on board. And so being able to see something and then you see like a rock and it gets closer, and then it says no signal. And then you're like, typically again, you're like, oh man, that's a bad thing if you're in space. But in this mission, it was like, we all cheered. We were like, yes, we did it. Because it worked. I mean, because usually when I do outreach, I tell, you know, especially kids, I'm like, okay, if you're a baseball fan, I'm a baseball fan. Imagine, you know, you're throwing to home base, right? And you want to make sure that you get that person out. But imagine if home base is millions of miles away and home base is constantly moving. The math behind that to be able to hit a moving target in space millions of miles away is crazy. And so being able to be part of that mission that successfully, not only did it collide with the asteroid, but when we looked at the data afterward, we actually successfully moved it 33 minutes. And so it was almost double of what we intended it to be. So it was just really, really cool to be able to work on such a successful mission, my first one, and just so many cool elements attached to it. I love that mission so much.
We have craters here on Earth, some more iconic than others, and while we may not be expecting anything huge to hit us soon, what we're going to do today is show you all what that impact looks like in an activity I am coining as Meteor Mania. Okay, so it is officially science time, and like I said, we're recording this activity, Meteor Mania, but I think we need to explain a little bit of the science behind it before we do anything else. So, Planetary Defender, let's see what we got here.
We got it.
Okay, so craters are made when two objects, usually small asteroid, large planet, collide right into each other. And when that collision happens, there's a transfer of energy. This transfer of energy is called kinetic energy, or KE. And if we look at the equation, we know that kinetic energy is equal to 1/2 mass of this guy, our asteroid, velocity of that, so the velocity of this motion here, squared. And for us, since we're going to be making our own craters today, we're relying on something called gravity. And the equation for the velocity of free fall using the gravity constant is V equals the square root of 2gh, where g is our constant, 9.81 meters per second squared.
I think the math checks out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's rocket scientist approved, so that's how you know it's real. So when we look at this though, that means that we can kind of hypothesize where or how our craters are going to be formed and what's going to vary when it comes to the size and depth of them.
We need to try out different masses to see if we can create different masses or sizes of the crater, and then also we need to try our different heights to be able to see if the height has a difference in the formation of our craters.
this kiddie pool here and this 50 pounds of flour and cocoa powder is simulating our planetary surface, whether that's the Mars surface or moon, doesn't really matter. And we have a bunch of different sports balls that are going to simulate our asteroid at different sizes and masses, and we're going to see what happens.
Let's go. I think we
right.
should start probably from the smallest and then gradually go up.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we have two things we need to test, right? So we want to test mass and we need to test height. So with this one, do we want to test mass first or do you want to test height?
Let's do mass.
Mass? Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm going to start you off with a tennis ball, which is pretty small in mass, right, in comparison. And then maybe we'll move to the basketball and we'll see what the difference is.
Let's do it. So I'm going to go on this safely.
Okay. And I'll be here. I'm observing.
You're observing. Okay, so.
Yeah.
All right, 3, 2, 1.
Woo!
All right.
So we can kind of see that our crater here is just a little bit bigger than the size of the tennis ball, which I can move out of the way. And you can tell pretty distinctly where it landed based on the cocoa powder, which is good. So our cocoa powder is doing the job.
Perfect.
All right, so now everyone remember what this looks like, because next up we're trying a basketball, much bigger mass and bigger in size. So
What do you think? Is it going to be bigger than the tennis ball?
I'm inclined to say yes.
I would think so too, just because
Yeah.
it's a bigger mass. We're going to count it down like a rocket. So T minus 3, 2, 1, go.
Oh! Woo! Tell me about this crater, Joan.
So this crater, as you can compare it, I'm going to take
Yeah.
the mass out.
Oh.
Look at the
That's
size of
nice
that crater.
crater.
That's actually really nice, and it's really deep as well because you can tell the impact versus the tennis ball one. Tennis was a little lighter as well. This one, you can tell that it's heavier and it's bigger in mass, so the impact was a lot more. So that's why the crater is a lot deeper, and you can tell also that it's a lot bigger too.
Yeah, we just tested mass. Now we have to test out our height. Joan's a huge Orlando Magic fan. So if we could just consider this her official tryout for the Magic team, that'd be great. Thanks.
Thank you.
All right, you ready?
Yes.
Okay.
All right,
All right,
hold on.
let's.
All right, getting ready.
Okay,
Okay.
we warmed up. All right, ready?
Yes.
3, 2, 1, go. Pretty immediately, we can already tell that just from the last time we dropped it, which was like about a good number of feet higher, that is definitely not as impactful.
Not as impactful, right. And as you can tell, it's actually not as big either. Well, height has a difference, and also just the velocity itself. It's closer to the ground, and so it's not as much height for it to actually make a good impact to the crater itself. Yeah, I think that we need to go a little higher, obviously,
Yeah.
and then we have to do some theatrics to see if we have the bigger impact.
You're up. This is all you.
Okay.
We need that trick shot going.
I mean, hold on. Whew. All right. Okay. So I'm going a little higher. 3, 2, 1. Kobe.
Oh, okay. Well, I think we can immediately say that had a much bigger impact just based on the amount of, dust that it kicked up.
Then you can also hear it a little bit more. There was a louder
Yeah.
thud versus the one that was closer to the ground.
And the crater is much bigger.
The crater is definitely a lot bigger, and it's more pronounced as well.
Yeah, highly recommend that when you do this at home, you get a measuring tape and you actually measure the diameter and the depth of the crater, so you can not just take our word for it, but actually test it out for yourselves at home and see the science at work.
Yep, a good scientist and a good engineer obviously collects a lot of the data,
Yeah.
a lot of trial and error, so being able to have the tools that you need will help you analyze the data overall as to what had the most impact based on the mass and the height.
So I think the last step is really just to have a little fun. We have our disco ball here. It's a Saturn disco ball that our team made for a Space Gala 2 years ago.
T minus 3, 2, 1. Ooh, definitely
That's
has
a deep crater.
I was gonna say it has a very deep crater because again, the weight.
More mass.
And yeah, so therefore I think that this one is a little bit more impactful than the basketball over there. Disco, tennis, soccer, or basketball?
Yeah.
I'm gonna go with the disco ball. Yeah, definitely the disco
Yeah.
ball. It had
Our party crater.
it's our party crater.
So for those of you who want to replicate this at home, you do not need to fill a kiddie pool up with 50 pounds of flour. I mean, you absolutely can, and I think we encourage that.
I think we should.
But you can do this on a much smaller level. Just get a paper plate, fill it a little bit with flour, which you should need no more than a cup for that. Spread a little cocoa powder on top and use coins that you have around your house and vary your sizes and your heights and what coins that you're using. And we're gonna drop a link in the video description so you can learn a little bit more and see more of a step-by-step tutorial on how to replicate this at home. Thank you so much for being on today's episode. And not only that, but literally keeping our entire planet safe and being a planetary defender. I know I sleep so much better at night knowing that you and your team of scientists are out there doing your job. And make sure you like, subscribe, and share this video so others can learn about what Joan is doing, keeping our planet safe, being super cool. And I hope you join us next time for our next episode of What's Up, Girl?